Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today hopefully we'll have a bit of fun with a visit to the fortune teller. And what I'm going to try to do in these readings is recreate as much as possible the sensation, the feeling and the process that could occur if you went to a fortune teller. This set of readings is unapologetically predictive. There are different viewpoints people have about tarot and oracles as to whether they're predictive. I personally think that you see the future, or what you see as the future is actually the present at long distance, and there's a mysterious sort of telepathic collective unconscious energy that operates for it. So you can see energies, but you can also make choices. The further out that you see, the more choice that you have, and that's the purpose of getting a fortune reading. From my personal perspective, but you can believe whatever you want about that, but this is the idea. We're going to be trying to look at your short, medium and long-term future and use a process like a fortune teller might do it with a number of different divination techniques and so forth. So hopefully that'll be a bit of fun. We have 3 different readings to choose from, and of course you can go to more than one if you want. So I'll put down the numbers as always. To help with that, the first part of this reading, and I'm going to talk this through as we do it in each, is when you first go into the room with the fortune teller and she is picking up, she or he, I should say, let's not be gender specific, is picking up your energy. So the first bit is going to be around what your energy is that you're walking into the room with, and then we'll use tarot and other things to sort of look into the time frames and so forth. And so part of that energy is shown by these cards from the Divine Circus Oracle deck. So these I shuffled and asked Spirit for 3 to show the part of that energy. So it's a little bit of what is going to be in the reading, but there's also another couple of cards from a different oracle underneath this. So I don't know what those cards are going to say. So that will be the first bit that the fortune teller looks at. And then, as I say, I'll talk you through the rest. So this may help you choose. So for pile number 1, we have Ra, Ra, Ra. And we have the number 10, since a sort of stepping up, completion, next cycles and so forth. For pile number 2, we have Circus of Love, the number 35, which could connect to sort of hard work and energy and achievement around things to do with love. And for pile 3, we have the rather intimidating looking Nebula Warrior. The number again is 8. It's 17 and 8. So there's something, I think, in at least 2 of these readings that's about achievement after hard work and effort and so forth. But that's just the numerological sort of side of it. You may be drawn to different things, the titles, the pictures, or you may choose in some other way. Whatever way works for you, and however many readings you want to go to, that's completely up to you. But when you do know, the timestamps as always are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So you have just entered the room with the fortune teller. And she asks you to sit down, or he asks you to sit down. They ask you to sit down. I'm going to try not to be gender specific with the fortune teller here. They ask you to sit down, and they ask you to shuffle the first of 3 different tarot decks that will be used as looking at short, medium and longer term. That allows your energy to get into the cards for the reading, but it also allows the fortune teller time to assess your energy in general. They may pick up a crystal or 2, they may commune with their guides, but the energy they get, the first impression that they get of your fortune is that you are coming out of maybe a dark or difficult time to be in the spotlight, to be heralded for achievement in some way. Ra, Ra, Ra is all about that. It is about maybe you've been toiling very hard at something, maybe you've been underappreciated, maybe you have been a bit invisible, but that time is changing and you are now being asked to change, to metamorphosize your maybe a little bit sort of shy or kind of introverted or introspective side to come into the spotlight, because here with the cherry on top, you've put the finishing touches on something. You've concluded a project, you've concluded a process. It could be something literally around career or creativity, or it could be something within your own spiritual or self-development, but you really have achieved something. You exude a sense of the promise of the new, and that it's time for you to be seen, but that this is a metamorphosis for you, that in fact is the interesting energy here, that your achievement is something that is always true to you, that you are a hard worker, you are productive, but the concept that you may now need to step into the spotlight and be seen, that's your transformation. This is your time to shine. So there's a sense that you imbue, just like this character in Ra Ra Ra, But the fortune teller can tell this is not necessarily an easy transformation for you. This is alchemical. This is profound. Literally, this talks about changing skin. It's almost like with this headdress, it feels a bit like that's maybe something that you'll need to do to really be able to step into the promise of this and the success of this. You may almost need to put on the garb in a way and almost fake it till you make it, but it's not faking it because you actually have done the work, but it's like being able to be seen for it. It's almost like you have to put on glamour, put on a new skin, something like that. So the sense around your fortune is to step into being seen and being recognized, but it is not an easy thing for you to do for some reason. So the fortune teller says this to you, says something like this is occurring, and says, shuffle with that in mind now, the first tarot deck. And this first tarot deck is going to be as specific as we can get on short-term future. So this is looking at maybe the next few weeks to few months at the most. There's certainly something very imminent about this, but the change process is profound. So it may be that we'll see it across short through to longer term to really see the full metamorphosis. But what is coming into your fortune to pick up this energy, and as a result of this energy over the short term, pile 1. Justice reversed, Strength reversed, 3 of Wands, 8 of Pentacles reversed, 6 of Pentacles reversed. Okay. I do think for most of you this has to do with, something in terms of your vocation, your job, your creativity, something like that. This does not feel particularly like a fortune, at least in the short term, and with this energy that you've walked in the room with, which is about love. Now, it is possible that, in fact, you have brought in something and the metamorphosis is you're going to be seen. That is a possibility. But a lot of this is about moving from where something wasn't fair, something wasn't right, where your strength wasn't seen, even though I feel like you put a lot of work in, to having a direction where you can be seen. And the reason it's going to happen is that you've reached a level of mastery of something. You really have. It's not just that you've finished a project or created something. What is happening here is that you've reached the level of mastery where you don't need to learn from anybody anymore. You can break the rules. You've got the mastery, so now you can break the rules. And you are now going to be seen as an equal. It feels as though, this feels a lot like sort of someone who's actually very brilliant, very sort of original, should be in the spotlight, but has been kind of behind the scenes doing a lot of the innovative work. And you've brought something to a conclusion, but up until now, others have almost taken the credit. But there's something now where your particular secret way of doing things, your different skills, your capacity to move beyond just what everybody thinks is conventionally what you do in this space, is elevating you. You are meant to move up and become one of equals. And I'm feeling that the fortune teller is going to say to you, this is part of the secret in the short term about how to deal with the metamorphosis, because this is the beginning of a bigger journey. The 3 of Wands is definitely the beginning. It's not, you even coming into the spotlight now, it's almost like you do it, you kind of step out from behind the curtains and you take a bow and then you kind of scurry back in again. It's like the first steps into this. But this is a new trend that's coming in. And so being recognised as an equal, I think you will eventually be recognised as a leader. But this early stage is just to allow yourself to be congratulated by those who want to elevate you and recognise you now. It's you haven't been seen. It's not fair. You really should have been, but you are. That is coming in. And this is coming in soon. This is why we had the cherry on top. You've finished something. You've completed something. Whatever it is. You've completed a novel and an agent is going to want you. You've completed a project at work and that's going to be seen and recognised. Something like that is occurring. And as I say, if it is around love, then I feel as though there's almost a step before you can bring it in. It's like you being able to have understood what you really want and coming out and being more clear about it and changing, how you look and how you present yourself to be different, to be a master at that and to find something that is a more equal thing. It could be that love has been unfair, that you've been kind of always sort of like the less dominant one in a relationship. But I do think for most of you, she's going to say this is more about achievement. This is more about an achievement in some way and being seen. And something is occurring in the very near future that allows you to first have the taste of that and allows you to think this is the beginning of the journey. But I do think the metamorphosis is longer term. So then she says, okay, so the next thing out, we're going to have a look at how this might develop. to the medium term. I keep saying she, so I'm thinking in this one you've got a female fortune teller, so let's just accept that. So she says you're going to this is going to develop in some way over a longer term. We're going to now, and she asks you to shuffle another deck. We're now going to look at the next 6 to 12 months. So if this is what's happening in the immediate, how does it play out in the next 6 to 12 months? And she says to you, this deck that we're now using, it feels like a deck that comes from the Circus. It is highly symbolic rather than pictorial in the sense that, say, a Rider-Waite-Smith would be. She's deliberately using this because it's a little bit further out. It's a little bit vaguer in what its message may be. It's not this is very clear for the short term. We're going one level out where it's a little bit freer, and the purpose of that is to understand that the further something gets out, the more you could actually influence or change this. And we're using 3 different decks, she says, so that we see if any similar cards come up as we go through. So now we're looking at the next 6 to 12 months. If there's a big breakthrough and getting recognised in some way in the very near future for you, pile 1, what plays out over, say, 6 to 12 months for you? Temperance, the Devil, the Empress reversed, the 9 of Needles or 9 of Swords reversed, the Tower reversed. Okay, so this is picking up the fact that the metamorphosis is a slower process. So this sense of achievement, this sense of being recognised will come in. It's definitely coming in. And in fact, it's going to become more the norm for you as this develops out. Your balance and your ability to do things, it's things you have a stronger sort of alchemical capacity. And temperance is like the great alchemist, and metamorphosis is like an alchemical process. So what is set off in this first period is actually going to really solidify something more balanced. It does talk about patience. So it is saying that you'll have the taste of this, but the full fruition of your change and coming into the spotlight will take some time. Part of this is because you are in a very powerful environment. I do think that this is talking about work or something where there's a vocation involved. And part of your strength and your ability and part of how you grow in your strength as you bring this into balance is to know how to navigate that environment. What you will feel in that sort of 6 to 12 months as you start to get a taste of this is how much you were undernourished before. So there is a request here from your fortune, from your soul, I think, saying don't get caught up in that. The 9 of Swords upright is worrying more than you should. The 9 of Swords reverse is releasing and letting go of that energy, but it's like it's realizing it and then letting go. So it's almost as though if you've been kept a little bit in the shadows for your whole life and you finally get to see the sun, you could resent all those years you were in the shadows, and that could become the thing that entraps you. You could feel that you're undernourished, that you didn't get the sun on your skin. But this is saying let go of that energy, because you are now on a pathway that you are much more in control of. And this change will be profound with the Tower, but it's reversed. So it's not happening to you, it's happening for you, and you get to determine it. Partly because, as I say, even in this short-term level, there's something where you've been recognised, whether you could literally have been promoted, for instance, or as I say, congratulated on something. This gives you a lot more control. So I think, but you start to really understand when you start to see your power and your energy and understand the environment. Like this would be a classic for somebody who was promoted and went from, say, being in a team position to being a manager, and suddenly you're seeing how this all actually happens in a way that you didn't see before. It would be possible to get caught up in that and get resentful, but your soul is saying don't do that. Yes, maybe you were undernourished before, but you can change that. You are now in the process of changing that because you're changing yourself and where you fit in, and you're in balance and you're understanding the environment that you're in. So she would say that this is continuing, but it will take time. And there may be a period where you kind of have to sort through whether you resent or feel angry, but allow that to let go. Remember, it's what is different about you that might have held you back originally, but is now the thing that's going to propel you forward, and it's now the thing that is giving you say. So she says, this is a big change, but it's a very positive change as long as you don't sort of want to go back into the shadows and dwell on on the wrong that happened. It's how you create the right. And it's interesting too with this particular devil card, because it talks about addiction. There is a warning here not to get addicted to the resentment, because that's the only way the power of this thing can keep you in the shadows. You can bring things into balance and change it on a much more profound level. So she gives you a third deck, and she said this deck is based on the Masquerade, and it is the most hidden of all, and this is for anything beyond a year. So maybe the next 1 to 3 years, probably no longer than that. So if this is the foundation of a change, of you coming into your power and understanding how you can control it and how fundamental this change is, then what does it look like in the long term for you? And what other energies might come in as a result of this? Because this seems to be very connected to the concept of the next level up and starting to be your own master, your own boss. But what else is coming in the longer term? We have the Two of Pentacles reversed, the Four of Cups, the Magician. There you're really coming into your power by then. Nine of Swords reversed again. Wow. There's something really here. There's a process in this metamorphosis all the way through of letting go and letting go and letting go. Queen of Pentacles. All right. So what this is saying is that a year or more out, in the next sort of 1 to 3 years, there will be some material choices. You're not able to see what they are yet. You shouldn't even be worrying about what those are yet. Just know that this change brings in choices. And around this period of time, you will have more information to assess what is going to emotionally work for you and what is blocking you. You actually have all the skills, ability, and capacity to now really move forward on your direction and make those choices. But there's an emotional hangover almost that this is talking about. And this is why I think the Nine of Swords is coming up reversed twice. There is an anxiety here. I think she will say to you that there's something about the environment that you've been in that you have to be really aware of, that it's almost the more that you become powerful, the more you stand in the light, the more people might try and guilt trip you. It's like you shifting and doing that and coming into your power. There's a kind of almost a mind games energy around you. And this lasts throughout this. So whatever you're doing, I'd say you'd say in the same organization or the same industry or the same creative field or whatever it might be, there's something around that. And this is always let go, let go, let go. Do not let it get into your head. You are heading towards, with the Queen of Pentacles, being your own person. Being able to commit to what you want to commit to and to create and make money and be sort of seen as a self-made person, all of those sort of energies, using all your skills, which are significant. And you're really making those show, 1 to 3 years out. But there's because of that, it's going to bring up a decision that it really makes you question the emotional patterns that you've brought through. So the more that you can do to let go of that and let go of any external influence on you in the shorter term over this next year, the less you have to deal with that later and the clearer that decision will be. So this is, you are changing profoundly, pole one, but the environment isn't. And that is going to create for you some choices about what environment you want to be in the longer term. And you definitely can do what you want to do. So I think that you're going to feel that you've been able to change yourself, but not necessarily the environment. Now it's what environment do you create for yourself? And again, if this is about love, it doesn't look like it's about love, but if it is about love, then it's what you will be loyal to, coming out of any of the kind of emotional manipulation of the past, coming into your power and making choices that don't emotionally entrap you, say with the addiction sort of energy from the devil card there. So that could also apply. But I think for most of you, this is really about material things. So then she says, okay, let's get a little bit more information on each. Let's use the Lenormand and let's sort of see one for each time period. So in this very immediate time period where you're going to first get the taste of the sun on your face, when you're first going to be recognised, we have the Scythe. This is going to make you want to end something. So for some of you, it may be that this is literally that you get promoted somewhere, you go to a different job, a different environment, that's where you're recognised and you cut out the past. But I think beyond that, it could be just cutting out this sort of sense of always being behind the scenes. You are, this is a very definitive end with the scythe. So to bring in the new, there's a very definitive end. Now there's a broader metamorphosis, but the finishing of this project, the finishing of this energy, you're not going to be, and this may be one of the reasons why she's saying don't feel that, this is going to continue. You have the skills and so forth. The environment itself may not change as much as you would want, but you're changing so profoundly that energy where you were behind the scenes is ending. It's ending. So there's a very significant finishing step here. And it's interesting because Ra 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 is number 10 and this is number 10. It's sort of, new things coming in. The old is being cut out to bring in the new. So then in the sort of medium term, we have mice. Okay. And this is where things can eat away. So this is the energy you need to be aware of. And I think it's the environment that you're in. Mice can eat away at what we have. Depending upon a reading, it can sometimes mean be careful that people don't steal something from you or whatever. I don't necessarily feel that that's the case, but I feel that there is something a little bit undermining in the environment that you're in. You are able to control it much more than you think, but you do need to be aware of that so that it doesn't get into your head, so that you're aware of it, you understand it, you plan for it, and you don't let it actually have that effect. This may have been an energy that was operating on you before, but there's something about what you've achieved that makes it harder for it to do it, but it's still there. There's something in this environment that wants to kind of eat away at what you achieve. Then the energy in the longer term, 1 to 3 years out. The moon, that's beautiful. That's sort of like light and energy and revelation. Things become a lot clearer. You get to clear this energy away. The moon is a very gentle card. So for all that, there is some continuation of this energy. Your skills and your capacity to have established yourself puts you in a much more gentle environment or a gentle position so that you can clear this energy out. And I think it probably is saying that this is where the kind of alchemy of the changes occur, because I feel very much like the Ra 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 here is the sun, and then we have the moon. The sun and the moon together are alchemical. So I think this change that she's talking about here will have occurred by that longer term period. So she says, all right, let's also use Madame and Dora and let's do a similar thing over the 3 levels. So along with this sort of ending energy, what else do you need to know in the short term, pile 1? The Sphinx, choose your words carefully. Okay, so you're going to know that there's endings, you're going to be seen, you're going to be heralded, but there's something about this environment that is still a little bit under the cover, and to be careful. But that. You're very well aware of the environment you're in, but this is also maybe why it takes a little bit of time. This is a tricky environment that you're in. So in the medium term, the stars, a long journey brings rewards. I'm feeling that's connecting to the short-term 3 of Wands there. It's just saying you're on the right path. For all that there could be energies around trying to eat away at what you do, have faith. You're on the right path here. But it is a long journey. This metamorphosis is going to take some time. So allow that and stay confident. And then when we're looking at the long-term fortune for you, the Satyr, revelry and indulgence. Okay, so there is a point at which you're going to get to really enjoy what you're doing. And that may be what helps break you out of this. If you felt responsible and beholden to others with the 2 of Pentacles reversed and the 4 of Cups, I think this is saying when you get to this point and you've mastered what you're doing, let go of guilt and actually enjoy yourself. Allow yourself to enjoy it. I think what is happening here is that you've been kind of self-effacing. When you finally come into your glory, you can enjoy it, and it's going to surprise you, because I think you're going to think, I wouldn't have thought I really wanted to be on the stage, so to speak, in some way and be seen. But you'll realize you're ready for that. You're absolutely ready for that. Okay, she says, lastly, let's get you a witch's rune for each one. So I'm just pulling from a witch's rune bag. So for the short term, we have the sun. Yeah, the sun. Something is beautiful is coming for you, Pile 1. Something that really shines a light on you, something that rewards you, the cherry on top. It's definitely coming, and it's meant to be the metamorphosis that takes you on your life path. So she says, that's beautiful. The short-term energy is good, and believe in it. You deserve it. The medium-term energy, I think, where you need to know you're on the right path because you're dealing with a tricky environment. we have, and I'm not sure of that one, so I'm just going to put, we have romance. Now, this is interesting because this particular rune talks about love could be coming in, so that definitely could be coming in, and if it is, it's a star-supported love. But it also says that sometimes relationships are unbalanced and we need to bring things into balance. And I think that the fortune teller would say this seems to be the energy around this. If you are seeing this as a love thing, it's a very good idea that romance could come in, but there could be others who are eating away at your happiness. So you need to get things in balance there. But I think beyond that, I think it's more the balance of relationships and trusting yourself and not letting others get into the way of it. And then in the longer term, the witch's rune that we get is, I just had to pause for that one too. I thought it was this, but I just wanted to check, is rings. So if there is a love situation here, then this is going from you becoming you and being seen to getting your relationships in balance and then to a commitment. So if this is around love, if you were saying to the fortune teller, well, actually, I think this is much more about my love life, then she would be saying then you're finding who you are and being recognized and seen. There is some adjustment period in, throughout this year so that you get things in balance. And then in the longer term, there's a commitment coming in. If it's not about love, then there's a commitment to yourself and to your career path and to your vocation that actually brings the right alliances in. So very positive energy overall for the different forms of divination. So she says, okay, the other thing that we need to have a look at is astrology. So let's see what's going on astrologically for you, pile one. And we'll draw a card again for each time period. So the card around the current energy, the upcoming energy, is the first quarter, picking up speed, make decisions, align actions with words. Yes, once you start to move from the past into the future, once you're seen, everything starts to pick up speed. The medium term for you, the third house, communication is key, and that would be right. Getting things into balance, understanding what's going on, being in control of what you're doing, your temperance card, your communication skills, and you're developing into the magician, which is, Mercury, which is the connection to the third house, is part of what's preparing you for the future. And then the longer term astrology energy around you, Pluto, that's when the true transformations occurred. That's when the full metamorphosis has occurred. And it's very, very powerful. It also brings you much more clarity around judgment and decisions. So you're going to be able to make these longer term decisions better then. If you had some sense of some big decisions you needed to make in about somewhere between 1 to 3 years, the fortune teller would be saying you need to go through this short to medium term process first. Then you will have transformed enough to make those decisions with clarity, and you'll make them quite quickly and you'll have the right alliances for you. So what she wants to finish up with is a blessing for you as you leave your reading. So having sort of seen, even though I think the overall reading is a blessing, there are some challenges to deal with. So she calls upon the Fae to give you a blessing in parting, pile one. A blessing from a fairy determined to help you. So I think she's been determined to help you. I think there are good alliances around you as well. I think there's a little bit of nudging in this reading, actually. I think she's sort of nudging you out. I do think that you really deserve to be in the spotlight and to be celebrated and to be able to create the vocation, the career, the creative project, whatever it is that you want, or the relationship that you want, but you're a little bit reluctant because you're used to being behind the scenes. So this is meant to really help you know this is your time, and you following your path and being in the sun will balance your relationships and bring the right alliances to you. So it's not going to make it fall apart. The only thing that's going to end, pile one, is the control that others that might have eaten away at you, your self-esteem, your celebration. You can start to move away from that. So I hope you enjoyed your visit to the fortune teller. I hope that it told you what you were hoping to hear. If you enjoyed the reading, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. But otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile two, to your reading. So you go into the fortune teller's booth and you say to the fortune teller, and I feel it's a him in this time. It felt very much like a woman in the last one as a fortune teller. So you say to him that you are here to see your fortune. And as he hands you the first of 3 tarot decks that we're going to explore your short, medium and longer term future with, he is assessing your energy. He is picking up the nuances and the energy and the key themes. And this is represented here. So as you shuffle the deck for the first part of the reading, he says, I can see that you are here about love. This may be romantic love. In fact, I think for most it is romantic love, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be love of family. It could be love of a project or a passion that you want to follow. But there is something here where you are wanting to break away from patterns and energies in love that didn't work for you, that made you even question if love could exist sometimes, or made you feel like you were in a circus as opposed to in sort of something that could be grounded and real. You want to purge that energy so that you can then work out where to look. And he says that you are meant to find something. You are meant to now trust and relax and know that you will know. He's saying that I can tell that you are the self-made person, that your intuition is very strong, as is your rationality. You've learnt from what you've been through, that you're very creative, but you're also very logical. You're very well in balance to do this. So trust what you do. You have learnt from something in the past and you have either purged it, you're in the process of purging it. You've maybe been through a period of introspection and cleansing. There was toxicity around relationships or love before, and you've really started to work out the impact of that on your psychophysical well-being. So you have got rid of that energy, or you are in the process of doing it. And that is what is bringing you to this place where you can work out where to go and search. And you can trust your intuition, you can trust your creativity, you can know that there will be a reason for what you do. This feels as though you've come from energy with love where you felt, I'm not meant to think about it, I'm just meant to feel it, and you ended up in toxic situations. You've learnt from that, you don't need to learn twice, he says. You are ready to trust this because you've married your mind and your heart in a way that you can then fish, you can then go and find the love that you're looking for. So he says, the first tarot deck that I've given you is meant to look at the short-term future. And I've chosen a tarot deck that has people in it. So it's very clear, it's very distinct, because when we're looking at short-term, it's a very close-up energy. It's probably of the 3 layers the one that is the hardest to shift because it is so close, but you can still know with this and do choice as well. We're looking at anything from the next few weeks to the next few months at the most. Let's see what your fortune is, pile 2. 6 of Pentacles reversed, Page of Pentacles, the Emperor reversed, the King of Pentacles reversed. Okay, this is all about what you're dealing with. The 9 of Wands. Okay. He will say that there was a reason he said it can be difficult to shift, and one of the reasons for you is that you are still dealing with some past energy. You are starting to realize that you want an equal. You have had somebody around you who has been very controlling and has misused power, misused the promise of commitment, whatever it might be, might have misused things financially, particularly if this is not about romantic love, but it's about some creative project or something at work. But for most of you, I think this is about love in terms of romance and those sort of connections. So you are now starting to understand, and this is what both your intuition and your rationality, your logical and your creative mind are partnering together to start to define what you want in a very practical sense. And the very first thing is an equal, not someone who wants to be too much of a boss. There's still some work to do on this. You're very, very close to getting it together, but you're not quite ready yet to go out and look because there's still some purging to do on this level. He says that you very much understand this. You understand what's occurred. So that's the important thing. And as I say, he's saying you don't need to learn this twice. You're very, very clear. You're very, very clever. But it's like, don't go looking yet because there's still a little bit left to do. You're very close with the 9 of Wands and you might feel you've had enough of this purging business. You just want to go forward. But he says next few weeks to next few months, don't do too much. You could potentially sort of go out a bit, sort of meet some people, but don't try and create this yet because you don't want to replicate the past. You want to clear that energy out completely. So then he says, let's have a look at the longer term, so the medium term sort of level, so longer than the short term. And this is probably anything from 6 to 12 months. So the balance of the year after this sort of shift has really happened. And he gives you another tarot deck and he says this tarot deck is one that looks like it's come from a circus, which sort of fits with you. And its imagery is not as pictorial in the sense of being very clear. It's a little bit more symbolic. And this deck is being used because when you get 6 to 12 months out, it's a little bit less distinct. There's more room to shift and change. It'll show you kind of very broad ideas of where you're heading to, but it's not quite as in focus, really, so to speak, as the more short term. So let's see what your fortune 6 to 12 months out is, pile 2. Ace of Needles or the Ace of Swords. 4 of Buttons reversed or the 4 of Pentacles reversed. Temperance, upright. The Beyond, which is an additional card here, reversed. And then the 7 of Cups. All right. So he says, you are about to finish this purge. By the time you're into 6 to 12 months, you've done it. You've had a breakthrough. You've got a new idea. But that you have to do that first. It is connected to knowing you need to find an equal. And it's knowing that you need to dissolve certain patterns of how you looked for a relationship. So he's saying you may unconsciously have looked for someone who was sort of more powerful than you or more established than you. Or you may have felt that those qualities were the qualities to look for. Someone who was bossy, someone who was very much kind of selfish or a little bit narcissistic because it seems somehow to be high status or high value. This is not a criticism. He's not criticizing him. He's just saying that there's some unconscious energy which you are well placed to be able to see and understand and to have a new idea about. So, and that is what you are going to dissolve, that you have dissolved it, in fact. Yeah, and it's not about being a possession anymore. You've dissolved that. That's the breakthrough that we're talking about here with a new idea at this time. And you've brought things into balance. And he says that this is the payoff for patience. This is why going out looking right now is not the right idea. 6 to 12 months out, yes. Then this energy is open. You're not going to recreate situations that you didn't want before. You've fully understood it. He says, though, the interesting thing is that you may not immediately rush out and do it. With the Beyond reversed, is there's so many opportunities, and 7 of Cups, so many potentials that you might almost feel like, and this is why we've got the where do I fish, like, what do I do? You know, that kind of, there's plenty of other fish in the ocean. Well, the ocean's pretty big. So he says that there may be a point where you almost are spoilt for choice or it seems too big. And I think he would say, that's okay. Just have a bit of fun with 7 of Cups. Just look at the possibilities. You don't have to jump straight into something else. In fact, if you tried to do that, you probably would find you didn't want to. So I think he says around about 6 to 12 months out, go out on the dating scene, all that kind of thing. Now, if you are already in a happy relationship and it's not about love, it may be about friendships. It may be about different creative possibilities, whatever it might be. There is a sense where you are moving towards something that is more true to you and is not at the behest of somebody else. And there are possibilities, but don't get overwhelmed with them. Just have a bit of fun, he says. So then he says, let's see 1 to 3 years out on the current energies. Now we're going to use a deck, he says, which is based on a masquerade. So this is as hidden as it can be because that far out, we're just talking about very general energies that are likely given if you follow the probabilities of these energies. If you make some other decisions, something else could occur. But at the moment, we're looking at the most probable energies around you, say 1 to 3 years out. Let's see what we get there. So you shuffle the other deck, and we get the Star, Temperance again. Okay, so this balance follows through. 3 of Cups reversed. 9 of Cups, 7 of Swords reversed. Okay. The true promise of this, where do I fish, about the balance of everything is very much in play, he says, by 1 to 3 years out, because you've got the sort of the wish thing here and the realism thing here. So you've worked a lot out in experimenting in the shorter term or medium term. You've actually worked a lot of things out, and you know realistically what is good for you. You've probably had a few dates or a few sort of relationships or whatever it is, or tried a few things out if it's something creative that weren't right. And that's okay, because you really know, you know what you want now. You're very much in balance and you're following your North Star. So he says the promise of the circus of love is there, and it will fully be in play in the longer term. And it's because you've taken the patience and you've got things in balance. But, it doesn't matter if there's a few, near misses, so to speak, on the way. That's okay. The really important thing here is that you've fulfilled the promise of this, that now you are choosing. I feel like what he would say is that you may be allowed yourself to be chosen before. By 1 to 3 years out, you're doing the choosing, and that makes all the difference. That allows you to bring in the right love and the right energy to follow your North Star. So that looks very positive. He says, okay, we're going to use some other divination methods just to see what else we can get, because there could be nuances, positive or negative, across this time period, or there could be other things that are coming up that aren't just about a love relationship. So firstly, let's look at Lenormand, one card for each of the time periods. So for the immediate future, the next few weeks to months at the most. Snake, okay, there's someone not to trust. This is the thing you've still got to purge. There's somebody who still wants to boss you around, still wants to tell you how to love or feel, still wants to be, the leader or whatever. That's still that what you're trying to purge is still in your environment, and you do need to be careful. Don't just trust easily. Go into your own inner knowing. Don't just follow what somebody who says they know more, is saying to you. It could also be about other things other than love as well too. There could be a general energy around you, in your workplace or something like that, where there's illegitimate power or people speak with a forked tongue. So there's a little bit of be wary in the immediate future. In the medium term, Stork. Okay, something new, something special is coming. So for some of you, you may actually have found, and in the shorter term, found the one. And what we could be looking at here is the possibilities of, do you move into, having children, all that kind of thing, because the stork can sometimes be about that. But it can just be also about blessings. And so this is saying good energy is coming in, and sort of productive, sort of nourishing energy is coming in. It could also be a presage that one of the things that you want to decide, and then one of the things that you're determining is that you want to find the one that you would want to have, say, children with, potentially. Then in the longer term, Clover, yeah, luck. It's luck that you've created, though. It's luck by knowing what you want and being very realistic about it. It's luck by being prepared to sort of take some risks sometimes and not sweating it when it doesn't work out, keeping things in balance. Because you're following your North Star, it'll appear lucky. It'll appear like it works out just almost magically. But the reality is it's because you've really worked out what not to look for, what to purge, and how to look for what you want. So you create your own luck. He says, we'll also ask Madame and Dora across these time periods as well too. So in the immediate future, something else to know. The Sun, your perseverance is rewarded. Yeah. Know that you're on the right path. Know that you're doing what you want. Know that you're following your Sun, your life path with this. This is why it's not appropriate to have somebody else telling you what to do. This is why it's appropriate for you to determine a kind of an equal partner in whatever this is. So even if there's still some of this energy around, you're heading in the right direction, and you will be rewarded for that. In the medium term, the Queen, love and prosperity. Okay. So look, maybe it is coming in at this point in time, but it'll have truly manifested by there. I think this is saying that for most of you, if you, instead of getting apathetic about thinking, oh my God, there's all too much, if you actually go out and you start to have fun, you are going to bring it in, and something where you are able to be the queen here. And that's not about gender. It's like sovereignty and bringing in prosperity for yourself. And then when we're looking at the longer term, the Gate, a barrier keeps you from your goal. Okay. So this may be, there could be some disappointment around something. It may not be the love situation, but it could be something else that's going on. But that, I think that, again, your realism and the luck can take you through that. You just have to sort of stay true to what you're doing. But there is something. This Three of Cups reversed. He says, look, there's something that's you're not going to celebrate. But on the other hand, the rest of this is working for you. I think it's saying if there is a barrier, take it as there's a good reason for that. I don't think it's about the love relationship if you're looking for love. I think it might be something else. But I think it's because it's not going to be what you would have wanted it to be. Okay, let's also get you some witches runes, one for each. And I'll probably pause with each of these because I'm not incredibly well versed with the witches runes yet. So for the short term, the witches rune that you pull for that is, that's actually about alliance. It's the ring, it's connection. I think this is you working out what are the right alliances to have. This is the core thing, whether it's about love, and I think for most of you it is, or whether it's about something else that you're passionate about. There's a really big thing right now in the short term about determining what are the right alliances. What ones take you to the sun, what ones take you away from the snake. Okay, in the second time period, so the sort of medium term, we have the eye. Well, that's interesting. This brings you great spiritual knowledge, great insight, the sort of temperance energy that comes in both the sort of medium and longer term. You can survey and see, and the eye in a sense is like seeing all. And this is the thing, I think, that it's a balance of like the revelation, the sort of sense that you have that you're heading towards what you want, that the good news is coming in. But it's also, when there's so many possibilities, not letting the eye get overwhelmed, but like just enjoying yourself and then watching and seeing what's happening. You'll work it out, is basically what the rune is saying. And then in the longer term, situation of directions. This is the crossroads rune. So overall, there's luck on your side, but there's also something that's barring something as well. There's something that you would not celebrate, but there's also something realistically that you could achieve. I think this is giving more information to say that by the longer term, by 1 to 3 years, because you've actually started to sort of see what you want and bring in that concept for yourself, you're going to have some significant choices about relationships, about what you do with your life, all of those sorts of things. And again, I think it's the wisdom to know that if the crossroads, theoretically, you could go in any direction, but one of them seems to be barred, there's a good reason. You're being protected and being watched over. So a big choice comes as a result of all of this. I think for many of you, it's to commit to somebody that you've enjoyed getting to know. But for others, it might be to leave something that was fun but wasn't working to bring in something that's more what you want. And for some, it may be about something other than just love. So the fortune teller says, okay, let's also get you some astrology. Let's see what the astrology says for each of these time periods. So the short-term astrology energy for you is fixed. Yeah, don't be too fixed, I think. Or actually, there's a double message here. There's some fixed energy you have to purge, and it's still hanging around, and you need to clear that out so that you can be more sort of like, as in the two temperances, a little bit more balanced, a little bit more flexible. But I think it is also saying be fixed to your purpose, not to the sort of wily words of others, but to your purpose, that you are on the right path and you are going to have the wisdom. In the medium term, when you're sort of surveying all these options and maybe starting to sort of experiment a bit, the astrology energy is Gemini, have a bit of fun. Have a little bit of fun. Try out different sorts of things, you know. Almost wear different masks if you like to sort of find what suits you. And then in the longer term, the astrology around you, where there's this big choice. Opposition, yeah, there's something. So this is definitely saying, although you are very, very primed to do exactly what you need to do, there's one thing that is going to be tricky. Let's have a look at the planets that are in opposition to see if that gives us some more information. Venus, okay, so this does have something to do with a love choice, I think. Venus and Pluto. I think this is a choice. I think where there is a block here, what he would say is that there is a issue here between how much you need to transform for love. So there's almost a point here where you could end up back here. That's why it's being blocked, because you're meant to move into a more lucky cycle. But there is something. There may be someone that you're interested in that if you really think about it and look about it using your sort of like idea of what you're really trying to bring in and your realistic view and the balance in your North Star, you'll realize that you would have to change too much for this, which takes you back to that energy. That's why it's being blocked. But knowing that, you can then bring in the right energy. So I feel like you're going to experiment a little bit with some different sort of people, whether it's in love or collaboration or whatever it is. And there's probably going to be one that is very good, but I also think there's one that might be tempting, but would take you back to that energy again. So I think he would be saying you need to be careful about that. And then what he would say is, I want to leave you with a blessing, so that you use this information on your fortune to the highest possible good. So he calls upon the Fae for a blessing for you to close out the reading. A blessing of the heart's calling. So yeah, this is all about you getting in touch with your heart and your North Star and your sun and your love and prosperity. But there is a kind of a warning within this that just as you've really started to learn this and you've started to look for what you want, you might be confronted with a similar thing that would take you away from that. So this is to get you back to what is it that you realistically want, and where you could be the equal, and you are not just responding to someone else. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 2. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the rather intimidating looking nebula warrior here. And then we've also got I am in balance and hot chocolate. And these energies, when you walk into the fortune teller's rooms, she looks at you, and I feel it's a she. I've just gone with what I feel the gender of the fortune teller is. She looks at you and she sees in this energy, as she asks you to shuffle the first deck to get your energy into it for the short-term part of the reading, she sees an overarching energy. She sees in you that you are a warrior. You are a warrior for the light, but you are accustomed to the dark, and you know the dark, and you're not afraid of it. And you want to bring love and light either into your own life in a love relationship, or it may be more of a cause. I feel like she feels that even if you are looking at this energy around a personal relationship, it's part of a bigger paradigm of love and light and connection. And she sees in you, from having been unafraid of the shadow, that you have brought yourself into balance. Now, this could be playing out in the workplace, because this talks a lot about work management and prioritization, but there's also everyday life. I think she sees you as someone who has got a balance around the light and the dark, which is why you're ready to take a cause forward. But you recognize, and what she sees you recognize, is that sometimes you can't take the full-on straight at it type of energy. You have to have things in balance. If you're too much fighting directly with the dark, then you're dealing with that coming directly at you. A kind of more strategic and careful and catch more flies with honey type of energy she sees as something that you can use, which connects to hot chocolate, which talks about flirting, new connections, friendship and feeling, getting together. This could bring in a flirtatious love because you're now in balance and you've dealt with your own shadows. So she could be seeing that, but she could also be seeing you as knowing how to disarm and cajole and not manipulate in a negative way, but in a way that is positive and helpful, that brings people together. Like if this was an energy of someone who was some sort of political or media activist, for instance, it's the person who can find what is in common and that people enjoy together from very, very different opinions. It brings things into balance. So she sees you as someone who, whether in your personal life or more generally, is meant to bring the light through getting a balance and finding what is common and what is fun, rather than a head-on attack. So she asks you to shuffle the first deck, and she says this deck has the most sort of clear imagery in it. And that is because we're looking at the very near future, anything from the next few weeks to next few months at the most, to see how this energy is playing out for you. The Hierophant, the Ten of Swords, the Three of Pentacles, the Eight of Wands, Judgment. Yeah. I do think, it is possible, because there is a flirtation element there, that there could be sort of something here that is about, love and romance or having fun with friends. But I think most of you, this is a little bit more serious. This is you being in places of power or traditions or things that are set and are kind of a little bit forbidding. So this is you understanding the kind of dark or shadow around the supposed sort of frameworks and structures of life. But you're finding your collaborators, you're finding your people through this lighter energy, this energy of sort of like, what can we create together? How can we have fun? How do we move things forward? And you know this is a calling. Like this is, you have a calling. This is why she has this sense right from the minute you walk in. It's not just, it may play out in relationships on a personal level for you, but this is much bigger. You have a calling and you know that there are some key decisions you need to make. For some of you, you may leave a workplace or leave a spiritual group or leave something that is a structure to find new people to be with, new people to connect with. There could be literally, as I say, leaving a workplace or something like that. There may also have been quite a bit of drama around this, but in the drama you found the people who have a similar viewpoint, and maybe more of you leave than that. But there's a calling, and it could be a group, it could be towards some sort of group activity. So there's something coming in for you. And as I say, it could just be going to another job or to a different team, or even sort of like shifting kind of like your kind of pleasurable pursuits with friends or whatever to be something that is more in alignment with what you would like to do more generally. But for some of you, this is a very big cause, and there's a pivotal decision very, very soon following a kind of revelation, I think, around what is not in balance where you are, but who you could move forward with. So she says, that's very interesting. Let's see what's happening in the sort of medium term. So if that's the next few weeks to next few months, let's look like 6 to 12 months out. Let's look for the balance of the year. And we'll use a deck here that is like a deck from a sort of old-time circus. It is less clear in its imagery. It's more symbolic, because the further we get out in time, the more out of focus this is and the more general it is. So let's see what the sort of medium-term fortune is for you. We have the King of Cups. We have the Four of Swords reversed. We have the Emperor upright. We have the Hanged Man upright. And we have the Nine of Swords upright. Okay. So this is you are unafraid of the dark. And she says that's a good thing, because this calling is about power. And it's about shifting power and having a different perspective, a different way of being in power. And there is anxiety that can be associated with this. And just to be aware that that's the case, you're someone who's able to deal with that more than others. I've seen this a bit in readings lately. I get a real sense, just watching the world at the moment and how people respond to news and so forth, that there's a lot of people who have, what I would call a normalcy bias. And there's a lot of change that's coming that may be a little bit anxiety provoking. So people just kind of just don't see it. They won't look at it. The people like you that will are the people that can find the connections and do something to build community. And you're the people we need, because that's going to be necessary. There needs to be a fundamental shift, and there's something not that far out for you where you really start to look at that different perspective and understand where the mental games are around it. And you're kind of coming out with this. You're not able to just sort of, at the very least, you need to make some other alliances. But I think for some of you, in the sort of like the medium term, you're actually coming out to say what you see, to set the cat amongst the pigeons in a way. And you're doing it because you're too compassionate. You can't not do it. You're very emotionally mature, which is very important for this. But you have to bring that out. You're kind of at a point where you're in a situation where you certainly can use sweetness and connection and collaboration, and you're well in balance, but you know the darkness. So you know that you have to do something with this. So there is definitely a calling associated with you. So she says, okay, let's look further out. Let's look 1 to 3 years out. Now, again, we're going to use the Masquerade Tarot here, because a masquerade with sort of masks and so forth is the most hidden of all. So the further out this is, the most hidden the clarity will be. It will be, more and more generic sort of energy. It's also the period where you have the most chance to change. It's because you have a lot more sort of timing out. You can change a bit in each of these by knowing this information, but the further out it is, the more you can do stuff in the short and medium term to shift the energies. This is just the energies right now, on the trajectory right now for you. 1 to 3 years out. 7 of Cups. Strength reversed. 9 of Wands. Queen of Pentacles reversed. 2 of Swords reversed. Okay. She says you are one of those people who's in for the long haul, and it is the long haul. The sort of things that you're looking at doing in the world, at whatever level it is, they take time, and there will be times where you feel there are many opportunities and many ideals, and that you're really on point and you're connecting to your heart. And there will be other times where you think, do I have the strength to see this through? But you will have the strength to see it through. You'll just wonder sometimes. It will also test your loyalties, and you may shift your loyalties by 1 to 3 years out. You may find out things, particularly since this is on the top of the Hangman where you get a different perspective. You may find out that you started, say this was a political thing, that you started with one political viewpoint, and then as you get more into the belly of the beast, you shift completely when you realise that, there's rhetoric and propaganda rather than truth, for instance. That you could actually shift your loyalties. And it's a difficult thing to do if that's the case. In fact, I think you will. I think at this point in time, the trajectory shows that the more that you learn and the more you step into this, the more you understand the environment you're in, and the more that you set up new alliances, there's some shifting that will occur 1 to 3 years out. And you need to do it so that you can see this through. But there are some really good options for you. It's just that it's difficult to make the decision, and you may need to make the decision sometimes without really having enough information to be sure. You're just going to have to trust your instinct and know that you are balanced, and know that if things were possible, if there's something here that could have been repaired so that you didn't have to shift loyalties, you of all people would have been able to do it. If you can't do it, then it tells you something fundamental about that connection. So there's a lot of change in your future, but it's towards you bringing light and love out into the world in some way. It's a calling, so it is what it is. So she said, let's have a look with some other divinatory energies. Let's have a look firstly with the Lenormand, and we'll just get one card for each of these periods of time. So for the most immediate future, Garden. Okay, this is all about who you connect with. The garden is sort of a throwback to times where we used to sort of do a lot of socializing in gardens and so forth. So this is about the connections and the networks that you make. So there is a lot of opportunity at the moment to find the right sort of people, the ones who have a similar calling. So go out and have that hot chocolate, in a cafe, in a garden, or, it's just socialize, connect out. There's a lot of promise in the short term around that for you. And in the medium term, when you're really starting to sort of see some of this, and deal with understanding the kind of powers that are operating in whatever your environment is, we have Tower. This is actually very different to Tower in the Tarot. It's exact opposite. Tower in the Tarot is where things sort of fall apart and change has to occur. Tower here is something very solid. I think that this is saying a couple of things. One is that your ultimate trajectory is very solid. So even in the longer term, when you're having to shift some of your allegiances or something, there is something very secure and important that you're putting in place. But I think it is also saying do not underestimate what you're dealing with, because it is equally secure. So this is why your skills to catch more flies with honey are very, very important, because you're dealing with a power base that's very well in place. But you're shifting it. You're a power of change and a power of light. You are also strong, but don't underestimate, she says. And then when we look at the longer term, when you're really trying to work out your next steps, I think, we get Clover. That's nice. Luck is with you. So even if you have to shift or whatever, luck is with you. You will have the energy you need. There are options. So because you're doing the work of the light, luck will be with you. You will be protected. She says, let's ask Madame and Dora for some thoughts on each of these as well. So again, for the short term, when you're connecting, making the connections that are important for this. The Spirit, unseen forces watch over you. And it's interesting, that sort of falls where the Clover is on this side. So I feel that is saying that you are protected. And you're protected because you're of the light. And you've been in the dark, and you were protected in the dark as well. Then let's see this midway point where it's sort of the clash of the titans, when you realize what you're dealing with, but you also realize how strong you are, pile 3. The wolf, beware who you trust. Yeah. And I think there may be some shifts over time. I think you'll make some really good connections and ones that last the distance, but I also think that there may be some that over time you start to realize, they're almost sleeper agents for the other side or something. So there's a period of really understanding what it is that you're dealing with in the balance of this year. And then beyond that, the Chimera, imagination clouds your judgment. So that's interesting with the 7 of Cups. And it's hard to make decisions. I think this go back to the sort of sense of what is balance here. I think that there may be sort of someone who you need to detach from, and you really don't want to. You want to imagine the best, but I think that there is going to need to be a shift, and be as balanced as you can about this, and as clear as you can about this, because luck is on your side and you are protected. But there are some choices about loyalties, and you need to make sure you make the right choice, because the 7 of Cups can be the ideal, but it can also be illusion. So go back to first principles. What's really clear? What is the evidence saying? Not necessarily what you would want in your heart to feel, but what is the evidence saying? Because this is a complex environment. So let's also get you a witch's rune for each. So for the immediate future, we have the moon. So this is the light and the darkness, the reflected light and the darkness. I think this is also emotional connections. Could be literally saying, some connections, going out for dinner, going out at a night party or something under the light of the moon could actually illuminate what you need to see. It's also very, very psychic energy, divine feminine, all of those sorts of things are part of this energy in the short term for you. In the medium term, we have potential romance with this card. Oh, not card, this particular one. Actually, I think maybe we put it up that way. Or this way. That looks right. So there is the possibility of romance, but the shadow side of this rune is also whether or not you have the right connections. There's definitely something about that. What it could be saying, I have to say, is that in the midst of all of this, there may be a romance, there may be a liaison. It may not be the right one. This is quite specific, so it's not going to be for everybody. But I think with the wolf and then the chimera and romance there's something in this where be a little bit careful if your heart personally is drawn to someone, to make sure that they are the right person for you. So that it's just a thing to be careful about that. It's not saying that you're going to falter. It's just saying that that's a risk. And then in the longer term, we have a star energy. So that's excellent. That's like the clover. It is saying you're going to come through. Your moon and stars, you are going to come through. And that you are in the right place and you're bringing the light. So that's why you're going to be protected. That's why there's luck. But what happens, if you think about the reflected light of the moon, there's also the sort of darkness and the shadows. There's that sense that darkness can be drawn to light. And so you're going to have to be aware of that. But you are meant to shine, and you are meant to bring this love energy in for yourself and for others to achieve what you do. The only thing is, it's interesting, it's star and moon. They're both at night. There's something I think about how do you bring everything up to the light so that you can be very clear that you aren't being beguiled, because you're very beguiling yourself and you're very able to do this, but some of the people that you'll be dealing with are also very clever in that space. So I think it's just always look to the light, look to the guiding star, look to the North Star. You are being protected. Okay, so let's also get you to, speaking of stars, some astrology. So what's going on astrologically for you in the short term? Cancer. Protection. Okay, protection, what matters to you, who you are at home, who are the right people to connect with, who would you want to protect. That may be a little bit of a signpost for you. What are you are probably trying to achieve something with coming from the heart, protecting others. So who are the right people to protect, and how is the right way to protect them? That's the thing to think about in the short term. In the medium term, new moon, the seeding, plant what you desire. This is when you start to really build it, but it's also a time where you need to internally reflect. sometimes to be on your own rather than just connecting with others, to really have a sense about what it is, because the relationships and the connections you make in this medium term are going to have a very big ripple effect on what you have to deal with or shift in the longer term. And then the longer term astrology for you. The waning gibbous moon, the calm after the storm, gratitude, sharing, and so forth. So this is where you synthesize and you integrate lessons. So I think you will come out of this okay, but there is something that you're learning, is something you shift, and there is a bit of a storm energy happening to fully get there, because there's something about the people that you're around. Okay, so the fortune teller says, you've got a lot on your plate, but what you're doing is really important. I want to finish the reading with a blessing for you. So I'm calling on the Fae for a blessing on your journey. A blessing of movement. I think that this is saying that the Fae and the sort of general blessing energy is just to keep moving forward, keep moving forward. Progress. You are going to make progress. You have luck because what you're doing is meant to happen and progress is necessary. And, you know, when you hit the people that are wrong, keep moving forward. Just keep moving forward. Don't let them stop you. Don't let them weigh you down. Don't let them confuse you. Keep moving forward. Each step. You see how the moon is there and it's sort of like a mauve color? I think that there's a sort of a sense of your higher power, your spirit guides are going to be with you each way. All that is required of you is you use this incredible skill you have to come out of the darkness in a balanced way and draw people together on what is common between them rather than what's divisive, and to just keep moving. The rest will look after itself, but you will sometimes have to move away from relationships that are not right for you. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 3. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.